Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nurul Syafiqah binti Mazi. I am currently pursuing a degree in accountancy and my student ID is 2025 471792. I will present the introduction of our study and the statistical analysis of travel trip data. The tourism industry is one of the major contributors to the global economy. As the number of travelers continues to increase, people have different travel preferences and also spending behaviors. This creates challenges for tourism businesses in understanding customer needs and also providing suitable service. Therefore, analyzing travelers' behavior is important because it helps businesses make better decisions based on data instead of assumption. This study used the traveler trip data set from Kaggle, which contained 139 traveler trip records. The data was analyzed using the IBM SPSS, and our study has three objectives. The first one is to describe the demographic characteristic, travel pattern, and trip expenditure of travelers. The second one is to determine whether the main transportation costs differ between men and female travelers. And the third one is to determine whether the main accommodation costs differ accordingly to accommodation type. We hope the finding of this study will provide useful insight for tourism businesses and support better decision in the tourist industry.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nuralifah Iliana binti Jamaluddin. My student ID is 2025236722. For this study, we use secondary data obtained from the Kaggle platform. The dataset was downloaded and analyzed based on the objective of this study, and it is mainly used for educational purpose only. The dataset includes several key variables. Firstly, trip ID is used as unique identifier, while destination, start date, end date, and duration days describe the travel details. It is also includes traveler information such as age, gender, and nationality to understand traveler characteristics. In addition, the dataset covers accommodations and transportation details. For example, accommodation type and accommodation cost shows where travelers stay and how much they spend, while transportation type and transportation cost represent the mode of the transport and related expense. Each observation represents one trip made by a traveler. Overall, the dataset consists of 139 observations, means 139 trips records were used in this study.
Hi, my name is Nur Danila Atira binti Muhammad Syarif Hamdan. My student ID is 2025227024. Next, I will explain the method of analysis used in this study. Three different statistical methods were applied based on three research objectives. For the first objective, descriptive statistics were used to describe the demographic characteristics, travel pattern, and trip expenditure. In addition, pie chart and bar chart were used to present the categorical variable more clearly. For the second objective, an independent sample t-test was conducted to determine whether the mean transportation cost differs significantly between male and female travelers. Lastly, for the third objective, a one-way ANOVA was performed to examine whether the mean accommodation cost differs according to the accommodation type, namely hotel, resort, Airbnb, and hostel. Next is the software used. The study was analyzed using IBM SPSS statistics. SPSS was selected because it provides reliable statistical tools for both descriptive and inferential analysis. It was used to generate descriptive statistic, chart, and independent sample t-test and the one-way ANOVA based on the objective of this study. Moving on to the first objective, which is to describe the demographic characteristic, travel pattern, and trip expenditure of the travelers. First is the demographic characteristic. Table 1 presents the descriptive statistic for traveler age. A total of 137 respondents will participate in this study. The respondent age range from 20 to 60 years with a mean age of 33.18 years and standard deviation of 7.145. This indicates that the most respondents were young to middle-aged adults with a moderate variation in age. Next, for traveler gender, Figure 1 shows the distribution of respondents by traveler gender. The result indicates that 51.09% were female, while 48.91% were male. This shows that the gender distribution was relatively balanced, although female travelers slightly outnumbered male travelers. We move to traveler nationality. Figure 2 illustrates the distribution of respondents by traveler nationality. A total of 29 different nationalities were involved in this study. American travelers recorded the highest number of respondents with 24 participants representing 17.5% of the sample. This was followed by Korean, British and Canadian travelers. Overall, the findings shows the respondents came from a diverse range of countries, with American travelers forming the largest group. Next, we move to the travel pattern of the respondent. Figure 3 shows that the respondent visited 34 different travel destinations. Paris, France was the most popular destination with 14 respondents, followed by Indonesia, Sydney, and Tokyo with 12 respondents each. This indicates that the respondent preferred well-known international tourist destinations. Table 2 presents the descriptive statistic for travel duration. The average travel duration was 7.61 days, with the trip range from 5 to 15 days. This suggests that most respondents spent approximately 1 week traveling. Figure 4 presents the transportation types used during the trips. The majority of respondents preferred flight, accounting for 54.74% of the sample. This followed by trains, while bus, car, ferries, and subway were less commonly used. Overall, air travel was the most preferred mode of transportation among the respondents. Next, for accommodation types. Figure 5 shows the accommodation types chosen by the respondents. Hotels were the most preferred accommodation, representing 43.80% of the respondents. This was followed by hostels, Airbnb, and resort. Overall, hotels was the most popular accommodation choice among the travelers. Finally, Table 3 presents the descriptive statistic for trip expenditure. The average trip expenditure was approximately 5,797 ringgit, with expenditures range from 2,000 to 10,000 ringgit. This indicates that although respondents spent different amount during their trips, the average expenditure was around 5,800, with a moderate variation in spending.
Hi, my name is Zikri Anur Sakin and my metric number is 2025226968. I will be presenting the findings of Objective 2, which aim to determine whether there is a significant difference in average transportation cost between male and female traveller. To answer this question, we first establish our hypothesis. The null hypothesis states that there is no significant differences between costs between gender, meaning the population means are equal. The alternative hypothesis states that there is a significant differences, meaning the means are not equal. Looking at the group statistic, we see that we have a sample of 66 male and 70 female. The average cost for male is approximately 6 to 5.3 ringgit, while for female it is slightly higher at 63.93 ringgit. At first glance, there seems to be difference about 38 ringgit. However, we need to test if this difference is statistically significant or simply due to random chance. Before we look at the t-test, we need to check whether the equality of variances using Levin test. The significant value here is 0.325, which is greater than our alpha, which 0.05. Therefore, we assume equal variances. This means we read to the top row of the t-test result. Here, our calculated t-value of negative 0.384 and the degrees of freedom is 134. The crucial part of the p-value, the two-sided p-value of 0.702. This is the probability of observing our result of the null hypothesis were true. Since the p-value of 0.702 is much greater than our significant level of 0.05, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, we conclude that there is no significant difference in transportation costs between male and female traveller. The observed difference of approximately 38 ringgit is not large enough to be considered statistically significant. That concludes my presentation for Objective 2. Thank you.
My name is Nur Akila Shazwani binti Mahzi and my student ID is 2025230496. So next, I will explain the hypothesis testing using the 5 steps the hypothesis approach for our ANOVA analysis. Step 1. State the hypothesis. The null hypothesis H states that the mean accommodation cost is the same for all 4 accommodation types, which are hotel, hostel, resort, and Airbnb. Meanwhile, the alternative hypothesis H1 states that at least one of the mean accommodation costs is different from the others. We move to the step 2, state the level of significance. We set the significance level at alpha equals to 0.05 or 5%, which is the standard level used in statistical analysis. Step 3, calculate the test statistic. Based on the ANOVA output that we get from our data, the F statistic is 2.574 and the p-value is 0.057. Since we are using the p-value method, we will compare the p-value with our significance level. Next, we move to the step 4, decision rule. Because the p-value of 0.057 is greater than significance level of 0.05, we fail to reject the H0. Lastly, step 5, the conclusion. As for conclusion, there is insufficient evidence to say that the mean accommodation costs differ significantly among hotel, hostel, resort, and Airbnb at the 5% significance level. This means that based on our sample data that we collect, the average accommodation costs across these 4 accommodation types are not statistically different.
In conclusion, our study successfully achieved 4 research objectives by analyzing 139 travel trips recorded using IBM SPSS. The findings showed that travelers come from various nationalities with a nearly balanced distribution of male and female travelers. Hotels were the most preferred accommodation, while flights were the most common mode of transportation. The statistical analysis also found that there was no significant difference in transportation costs between male and female travelers. However, accommodation costs differ according to the type of accommodation selected. Overall, these findings provide useful insight into travelers' behavior and spending patterns. Based on these findings, we recommend that tourism business continue improving the accommodation and transportation service while offering traveler packages that suit different customer preferences and budgets. Marketing strategy should focus more on travelers' preferences and spending behavior rather than gender. For the future research, large and more diverse database should be used together with additional variables such as income level, travelers' purpose, and customer satisfaction. This will help researchers gain a better understanding of traveler behavior and support more effective decision making in the tourism industry.